Hello and welcome to DPR, the Petroleum Industry Regulator. Now this week, our focus is on the Upstream division of the Department of Petroleum Resources. Now today's episode will explain the term Upstream of the oil and gas industry, and what the functions of the Upstream division of the Department of Petroleum Resources are, how the division in the DPR keeps in check the 86 companies. Now you got that. 86 companies operating in that critical sector of the country's economy, and all you need to know about the black gold. First, the tidbits on the industry worldwide. I'm Sulaiman Alede. Welcome. Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State in Nigeria's south region, has a lot of petroleum facilities. Now, they include refineries, tank farms, and offices. Inspections and visits by the officials of the downstream division of the Department of Petroleum Resources are routinely carried out as part of their regulatory functions. In one of such visits, a team led by the head downstream and deputy director, Department of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Ijoma Onyeri, was at the site of Sita Petroleum Limited, situated a little distance away from the Port Harcourt International Airport. The company, which deals exclusively on aviation fuel, is poised to expand its facilities and is seeking the approval of the Department of Petroleum Resources.
Part of the requirement of the business demand is for us to expand our pre-existing capabilities in major airports, namely Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and we are going to add Kano.
The Deputy Director and Head Downstream DPR, Mrs. Ijoma Onyeri, has this to say.
It is an existing facility, but they want to expand. That's why we are here, to ascertain if they meet all the required requirements for expansion.
The next port of call by the DPR team is the Liquid Bulk Limited Depot in Port Harcourt. The downstream team also visited a new tank farm owned by Stopgap Fuel Limited. The tank farm is awaiting commissioning by DPR.
One of my mandates is to visit downstream facilities, and one of them is Stopgap, a newly ultra-modern LPG and white product depot in one. It's a massive project. You can see we have gone around, and I'm very much impressed.
We have received tremendous support from DPR. Matter of fact, personally, I consider this facility strategic reserve for this country.
The Stopgap tank farm, which is one of the biggest in the country, has 2 LPG tanks and 6 tanks for other petroleum products. Saudi Arabia is looking to manage the oil market in a way that would keep oil prices at $70 to $80 per barrel for the time being. The kingdom wants to floor on the prices to monetize oil exports and at the same time keep a ceiling until at least the United States midterm elections in November. And that's according to Reuters, quoting sources at OPEC and the industry. Now, earlier this year, Saudi Arabia was set to be aiming for oil at $80 a barrel and even higher in order to stoke up the valuation of oil giant Saudi Aramco ahead of what was hyped to be the world's largest IPO ever. In April, however, US President Donald Trump started slamming OPEC for keeping oil prices artificially very high, and in the latest tweet aimed at OPEC in early July, he demanded that OPEC reduce pricing now.
This is a special announcement from the Department of Petroleum Resources. Gas is safe. Gas cylinders are to be kept outside. If you're buying LPG cylinder, look for NIS number on the cylinder. Exchange of gas cylinders with retailers during purchase is best practice instead of refilling from another cylinder. Buy gas from certified LPG plant. Repairing faulty gas cylinders is unsafe. For more information, visit the nearest DPR office or our website www.dpr.gov.ng.
Well, it's now time to break down the terminology upstream. What activities are carried out in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry, as well as what it takes to produce that black gold that earns the country its revenue. Call it the cash cow, but the answers lie within one of DPR's divisions that superintends over the sector.
The Upstream Monitoring and Regulations Division, UMR, of the Department of Petroleum Resources is solely responsible for the monitoring and regulation of the activities in the exploration and production of hydrocarbon resources in the country. The division also ensures that underground losses are minimized while maximizing hydrocarbon recovery. This division in the DPR is involved in the acquisition of acreages for exploration and production of petroleum, as well as drilling activities. In addition to the aforementioned, the division oversees the exploration, appraisal, and development of oil and gas wells. Other functions of the Upstream division are installation of facilities required for the production, extraction, processing, transportation, and marketing of crude oil and natural gas as stipulated by the contract agreement. The division is also responsible for the evacuation of all the deployed equipment and chemicals used for the development and exploitation of the acreage and restoration of the environment to normalcy. The Upstream division ensures that all activities carried out during crude oil and gas extraction are in full compliance with the relevant laws and regulations of the federal government. The last but not the least of the division's mandate is achieving the country's quest to attain the 40 billion barrel of crude reserve and increase daily production to 4 million barrels by the year 2020. In order to achieve these set goals, the division is split into units or branches. They are exploration, marginal fields and indigenous operators, resource management and operations. The exploration branch approves and monitors, acquires, processes and interprets geological, geophysical and geotechnical data.
As far as reserves are concerned, we are making efforts in the area of data acquisition to improve the subsurface, because we believe that there are more reserves or resources in the deep which we have not explored.
It also encourages and monitors exploratory activities with a view to finding new discoveries. A good example is the activities at the Chad Basin, the Anambra Basin, and the Benue Trough. The exploratory branch also encourages reserve addition through effective geological and geophysical reservoir studies and development. The operational branch deals with approvals, monitoring and execution of field development plans.
To have a field development plan, the regulation says you must drill 4 or more wells. But that is not cast in stone. Depending on the size of the reservoir that we are looking at, you can have some 2 wells, you can have 3 wells, but it has to be with understanding of the proper understanding of that reservoir. So that means that a study must be carried out and you must have all the parameters that you are looking at. You are looking at the structure map. You are looking at all the hydrocarbon levels, because the development is not for just one level, it's for all the reservoirs that you are looking at. So you are looking at a holistic development plan. And then you are going to look at the gas development. You are going to look at the facilities that will be used to bring it up to the surface. You are going to look at the economics of the plan itself. Is it economic? Is it economically viable? Then you are going to look at the abandonment plan and what is the impact on the community that you are going to be operating in.
The branch also gives approval for rig licensing. The Marginal Fields and Indigenous Operators branch is another unit of the Upstream division of the Department of Petroleum Resources. It monitors the activities of the marginal fields and indigenous operators.
It is a field that was left fallow for 10 years, and that if you want to produce it, it was not going to be more than 10,000 barrels. So because of that, they call it marginal, because the IOC discover it based on their size, it's not economic to them. The indigenous operator, when the IOC thinking the oil price went down, so they were not happy, so they decided to say, okay, let them just give it out or let somebody come and take over. And that is the beginning of indigenous. We have so many of them.
The fourth branch of the division is the Resource Management Branch. This unit identifies and ensures the utilization and joint development of straddled fields for equitable and prudent recovery of crude oil and gas. This unit also provides accurate data bank on hydrocarbon revenue, carries out analysis and projection of hydrocarbon resource for national planning. It also generates daily, monthly, and annual crude oil production statistics and compiles reports for general production activities of the nation.
Production accounting starts from producing the hydrocarbon from the reservoirs, and it starts from accounting for production at the flow station by your conducting your regular and routine well tests, which will give you an idea of what is coming out from the reservoir. The culmination of all that put together from all the various reservoirs at the flow station, you meter the volume from all the feeds that is connected to the flow station, and then at the end, you transport it to the terminal where such crude or such volume is further stabilized and then exported. Production accounting means you're being able to put value, actual value, in terms of what you produce on daily basis.
Welcome back. Now it's time to cross over to interview someone special. But I'm not doing that. So Anthony Amos is already with this person. So who could this person be? Now let's take a listen and find out.
Hello, you're welcome to this segment of the program, and today we are in the Upstream division of the Department of Petroleum Resources, where we'll be meeting the head of that unit. Well, madam, you're welcome to this program.
Thank you.
When we talk about upstream in the oil and gas industry, what do we really mean?
Upstream is the bedrock of the petroleum industry, and it has to do with looking for petroleum and producing it to the surface. The activities that are involved in searching for the hydrocarbon, producing it to where you can store it, and then eventually send it for processing or refinery, selling it, or whatever. Those are the events that we do in upstream. So you have looking for hydrocarbon, producing it, and transporting it to where it is stored, and then it's now used for other activities like refining. Okay, so that we can get benefit. There's no need finding the oil, producing it, and there's no benefit. So it has to go through the entire value chain. All the activities from finding, producing, transporting it to the terminal is what we call upstream activities in the oil industry.
Yeah, from what you have explained about the upstream sector, I'm sure you need a lot of technology to be able to work effectively there. So can you explain to us what technology is being deployed in the upstream section?
Definitely, without technology, you cannot find the oil. It's not like you're digging a well to find water. This is capital intensive. The government usually we give to oil industry just piece of land, and these are usually broken up into, divided into, like where you have your own building, everybody have their own piece of land. So the same applies in the oil industry. The area where we're exploring are divided into blocks, or what we call acreages, and these are just plain land. And the objective is to go look for hydrocarbons. So the first thing that is done is to shoot seismic. And when we mean seismic, to the layman out there, it means you're going to take pictures of the earth to see what kind of hydrocarbons or liquids. But this time our focus is looking for oil. So we want to go and see where we can find this oil. So they go with their trucks and they have to shoot or take photographs of the entire acreage which have been given using technology. That we call 2D seismic acquisition. You start with that. Once you have identified the area where you suspect that you have hydrocarbon, you will now go and do something that is narrower, a closer picture, and you zoom in, and that is 3D seismic. In the past, companies used 2D and did not see much. But with 3D seismic acquisition, they'll be able to unlock more hydrocarbon traps. Okay? So after shooting seismic, like we had discussed some time ago, shooting seismic is taking pictures of the earth, but you have to go and develop that negative that you have discovered. It's not these days that you have the WhatsApp group, you can use your modern cameras and you can see. In those days, you have to go to the lab and process those pictures you have taken. They call them developing the negative. Okay, so that negative is what we now call seismic processing. They have to go clean it up so that they can see the pictures clearly. You need to interpret what the seismic is telling you for it to be meaningful. After that, then the geologists will now, and the geophysicists will now develop a map. And from that map, it can tell you which area to go and drill so that you can find hydrocarbon. Most times, because of technology, you drill and you're successful. So once you get that first well, we call it an exploration well, and thereafter you want to go and start saying, okay, what is the extent of this hydrocarbon I've found? So you go to start drilling more wells, which we call appraisal. Once you know that, you're now going to start saying, how am I going to now produce everything? Because if you don't plan it well, which we call field development, you might not be able to bring all the hydrocarbons out of the ground. And you're going to leave some behind, which is not good for us. Okay, so we do the field development plan. And then you start talking about what facilities do I have, to do that. So once you put all that in place, you start flowing your hydrocarbon, bringing them from the ground, and then you pass them through the flow station because it's coming with water, it's coming with sediments from the ground and the oil itself. So we take it to the flow station where we do the first processing to separate the water from the sediments. And what is left, we meter it and send it to the terminal for storage. So that process I have described is clearly what we call upstream activity. And I'm sure you want to ask me, you hear of midstream, you hear of downstream, so where does this come in? Of course, once you bring the crude to the surface, you've done your first processing, you're going to transport it. That transportation forms the midstream, okay? And then there's some processing that goes on even within that midstream. At some point, you do some kind of processing again. Then whatever is left is transport it, to the terminals where you want to store all of these. It can be a tank farm and all that. You store that, and then I think that ends the process of upstream. So upstream and midstream at a point they meet somewhere.
Can you really tell us the time frame it takes from when someone is allocated an acreage up to when the oil is struck and then comes to the issue of transporting the oil to the necessary place that it needs to go?
It takes between maybe from 1 year to if you are fast enough, maybe 5 years. So between 1 to 5 years. It's time consuming. And that's why people, if you don't have the financial muscle, you don't really want to go and invest in this business because it's time consuming and it's capital intensive. You don't want to put, some people want to put their money in the bank and say after 3 months, you want to get your returns quickly. You want to fix, you don't fix in oil business. It takes a lot of time. for you to get return on your investment.
When we talk about upstream, with the issue of marginal fields also come up, what do we really mean by marginal fields? Can you explain to us?
Originally, when they started oil exploration in Nigeria in the 50s, most of the oil blocks that I talked about were given to multinationals because the indigenous people did not really understand the oil business. So that was given to the multinationals, and they went about looking for oil in these acreages, or what we also call blocks. And so in a block, you can have so many fields, different kinds of fields within a block, okay? Within a block, so many fields. And if they don't have much reserves, there's not much hydrocarbon pool in there, they will leave it, they will not develop it. Remember I talked about appraising, producing, and transporting. If they don't have enough pool that will justify that investment, they will not go into it, so they will leave it. And so there are so many of them that are littered all over the acreages that are given to IOCs. But most of our IOCs, many of our Nigerian citizens worked in these oil companies. Many of them now retired. But all that experience and expertise that they gained from working with the oil industry, we just go with it and that's it. What else will they do? These people have to be gainfully employed. We have to develop indigenous capacity. And because of that, they now came up with the idea of giving them these fields that are unattended, some of them for like 10 years, nothing has been done. They think they find this uneconomical for them. And so the government deemed it fit to give these small fields that are within the block, the small ones they think is not economical, to Nigerians, to indigenous people. And then they now employed the ones who have been working in the companies, the geologists, geoscientists, engineers, to now develop those little units and start producing.
What would you say are the challenges you encounter operating in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry?
Regulating this complexity of people is really not easy. We do have compliance issues, and when they don't comply, because we use our guidelines, we have our regulations, we have our procedure guides to monitor and guide our operations. Once they don't comply, of course, there's consequence for their actions. We can give them penalties. And if they are too grievous, we might decide to, ask them to release, to suspend action, on their blocks.
Are you assuring Nigerians who are watching this program now that in a short time from now, we will not run out of oil as a country?
As of today, we are producing, our reserve figures remains at 36.9 billion barrels. And that will last us if nothing is done for the next, for about 50 years, and then we are done. But if a lot is done, because we still have many marginal fields that are, stranded here and there, if we do a bid round, we can produce that, we can increase. Because government's target, actually, by 2020, is to increase our reserves to 40 billion barrels.
Thank you, Madam, so much for your explanation on some of these issues we have taken up with you. And of course, that's the end of this segment of the program. I want to thank you for watching. And then, of course, when we come your way next week, we'll bring in you another guest that will speak more on what you do at the Department of Petroleum Resources.
This is a special announcement from the Department of Petroleum Resources. Do not keep petrol in jerrycans inside your rooms. Ensure that it is kept well outside the living environment and away from children. Avoid using your cell phone in petrol filling stations during refueling of your car. It can cause spark and ignite fire. Do not smoke or use naked light where petrol is being stored or sold. Turn off your car engine at filling station when buying fuel in your tank. Avoid filling your generating set with petrol when the engine is still running. Always ensure that the engine is switched off. Ensure that when pouring petrol into a container, it is done in a ventilated area and in safe manner. For more information, visit the nearest DPR office or our website www.dpr.gov.ng.
Many thanks, Antonia. Well, we have come to the end of today's program, which focused on the upstream sector. You know, sometimes those are big names, but we've been able to, break it down all for you to see what the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry is all about. Next week, we shall take a look at another key aspect of the Nigerian oil and gas industry. Many thanks. I'll see you again.